Hello everybody, and welcome to Richard's Trainwreck Film Review. I'm your host and Trainwreck Richard, and today we're going to be talking about Days of Being Wild. This film was directed by Wong Kar-wai. It came out in 1990. So, here we are, part 2 of the Wong Kar-wai extravaganza. And this is a pretty significant film in his oeuvre, his body of work. I used a fancy French word, oeuvre. Oeuvre, so fucking smart and so fucking fancy. Oeuvre. Anyway, pretty significant film in his filmography because it represents his first collaboration with cinematographer Christopher Doyle, who he would collaborate with for the next 14 years. That's 4 years longer than my parents' marriage lasted. And also because whereas Tears Go By showed Wong Kar-wai as like a distinctive visual stylist who is still kind of relying on the storytelling sensibilities of his inspirations, specifically Scorsese. This really is the first emergence of the poetic and digressive and lyrical style for which he would become known throughout the rest of his career. Also, not coincidentally, this film was a box office failure in Hong Kong when it came out. Especially considering the star power associated with it. I mean, you got Leslie Cheung, Maggie Cheung, Karina Lau. Even Tony Leung appears like in a little minute-long scene at the end of the film without any dialogue. It's a cool scene, though. It just radiates so much buttery smoothness. I really dig that shot. It was a teaser for a sequel that never got made because the film fell through. But things have a funny way of working out in the world of Wong Kar-wai, and many years later, the characters of this film would re-emerge in The Mood for Love and 2046 to create a sort of informal trilogy of sorts. So it kind of ended up working out in the long run, but it is a peculiar film, a little prototypical in some ways in terms of the fact that I mean, it feels like a film that's kind of like a prototype for what In the Mood for Love would end up being. The photography from Doyle is a much more restrained and pulled back than the hyper-kinetic and frenetic style that you see in Chungking Express and Fallen Angels. And the color palette, I had kind of forgotten how drained and desaturated the color palette on this is. It's really kind of like film with this monochrome green filter that texturally works really well. Like you can feel this film on your skin. You can feel the humidity of this film. If you watch it, you'll understand what I mean. And honestly, lots of lovely shots, lots of great rain shots in this movie. Like if you love beautiful shots of rain, check this one out just for the rain shots. Really pretty for that reason. But while this is a film that is light on plot, I don't think it's fair to call it a film that's light on story. And what do I mean by that? Well, Scorsese kind of put it like this, right? Plot is what happens moment to moment in a film. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That's plot. Story is what's happening underneath the surface. Story is the interior lives of the characters and how those develop and progress and manifest to drive the plot. So you can have a film that's heavy on plot, light on story, looking at you, MCU movies, and you can also have stuff that's heavy on story, light on plot, like Mad Men, for instance. I always like to say, you can summarize the plot of any episode of Mad Men in a couple sentences, but that does not come close to capturing what really happens in an episode of Mad Men, if that makes any sense. Also, fun little fact, the introductory shot of Don Draper in Mad Men is basically ripped straight from In the Mood for Love. So, the more you know. Anyway, so what is the story of this film? Well, it's a character-driven story. And all the characters in this film, they do have an arc. And, it follows an arc and a logical conclusion. It's just that it's not really telegraphed that clearly to the audience. And I think a lot of casual film goers who would go in and expect like a saucy romance movie who would probably be kind of disappointed walking away from this wondering like, what the fuck was that? It was just a bunch of miserable people. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of miserable fucking people in this movie. I don't think there's a single happy person anywhere in this film. You've got the main character, Yuddy, played by Leslie Cheung, who's a womanizer. He's got mommy issues. The women in his life that he kind of plays games with and uses. The fuck was that? Did I just see a flash of lightning? Hang on one second. God damn it, I was really hoping to go for a run tonight, and now it's fucking storming outside. Go figure. Best laid plans of mice and men usually end up with grown men killing rabbits completely by accident. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, character-driven. This is a character-driven film. And really, it primarily revolves around the character of Yeti. Yeti is an interesting fella. He's, on the one hand, a total piece of shit to women. But on the other hand, has also got serious, abandonment issues with his biological mother, who disowned him and pawned him off to another woman who ended up being his adoptive mother. And he has serious trust issues with his adoptive mother, who won't be direct with him about who his biological mother is, who took him in just because he was like a meal ticket, a month-to-month paycheck and, a way to make ends meet. And yeah, stuff like that will make you distrust women. Now, I will say, full disclosure, the way people and women have treated you in the past, fellas, is not a valid excuse to treat women like shit now. Be better than that. Come on, hold yourself accountable. And also, ladies, I spent lots of time lecturing the fellas last episode about why you shouldn't bust a nut in a girl unless you're ready to be a father. Let me just tell you, look. What? Oliver's being a baby. Come here, buddy. Come here. You want to say hi to the folks at home? Give me 1 second. Let's see if we can get him on camera. Oh, here he is. Here's the fucking asshole that keeps interrupting me. Say hi. Hey, say hi, buddy. Say hi. Say hello. Hello. He says hello. He's very cute. He's very loud. He's very disruptive. Let's see if we can talk for a little bit. Anyway, where did I leave off at? Oh, yeah. So, ladies, it doesn't matter how hot... I understand you want... Sir, I understand you want down, but digging your claws into the chair is not going to help you here. Oh, God, there we go. Okay, there you go. Down you get. It's the Trainwreck review, okay? What do you fucking expect from me? Anyway... let me think out of my thoughts for a second. Fuck. Oh, this week's been a fucking disaster, man. It's been a fucking disaster. You don't even know. I got this huge thing at work going on. I'm half expecting a call from my boss. Any moment now, he'll probably be finishing up with golf. Any minute now. He'll call. He'll ask how things went. He'll listen to me for 2 seconds. And then he'll start talking about all the other shit that I need to do. And then he'll go out of town. And then I'll be saddled with all the shit I gotta do. And the cycle will repeat itself. Isn't it fun? This fucking nightmare cycle in which we're traveling. God, it makes me wish I were back in my early 20s again. I say as a guy who's fucking 28. Oh. Anyway, ladies, if he's got mommy issues, just watch out, God, now I got fucking cat hair in my mouth all over me. He has so much fucking hair just everywhere. Okay, there's still fucking hair. Okay. I think I pulled my shit together. Let's talk about Days of Being Wild. There's a great scene in this film. But there's still more fucking hair. There's a great moment at the beginning of this film when Yeti walks into this concession stand that's run by Sully Zhen. And he notices it's 3 o'clock. And he says, it's 3 p.m. on April the 30th. You are with me. Because of you, I will always remember this minute. From now on, we are 1-minute friends. You can't deny it. It's already happened. And next day he comes back. They spend 2 minutes together. I imagine the day after they spend 3 minutes together. And before you know it, they're spending like an hour with each other. And then before you know it, they're doing the fucky with each other because that's what happens with men and women. And
Wong Kar-wai's always had a fascination with time and timing and chance encounters in his films. And here it's addressed perhaps the most directly and on the nose that it's ever been. And it's funny how those little chance encounters, and I find it's something that happens most like in your early 20s and in your adolescence when you're in those situations where you can make friends. Once you get into your late 20s and you've been working a job, it gets so hard to meet people and it gets hard to find a girlfriend unless you want to like wade through the fucking shit-stained cesspool that is like Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and online dating. And I remember when I was in college, there was one day in my second semester, my senior year, I was sitting on a bench waiting for my next class to start. I had a couple hours to burn. I hadn't slept at all the night before. I was smoking a cigarette. I haven't had a cigarette in like 4 years now. It's been 4 years since I've had a cigarette. But I was having a cigarette at the time, and this guy walked up to me. I had never seen him before. I had never spoken to him. And he walked up to me and he asked if he could take a seat next to me. And I was like, sure, you know. And he bummed the smoke off me and we got to talking. I had one of the longest, deepest, most interesting conversations my entire life with this man. And I never saw him again after that day. If it weren't for the fact that another friend of mine like walked by at that moment and noticed us and say, oh, hey, Rich, it's Josh. I knew you two guys would hit it off. I think I might look back on that and just wonder if I hallucinated the whole thing because I was sleep deprived. And sometimes I still wonder if the guy was actually real because I talked to that friend years later and I was like, hey, do you know whatever happened to Josh? He's like, who's Josh? So, ooh, spooky. Did I talk to a ghost? Who knows? Who's to say? But I'll never forget that conversation. And it is weird how those little momentary encounters in your life can end up having an impact on you in ways that you don't really even realize. And at the end of the film, when Yeti's looking back on most of his life and thinking of the people who meant the most to him, he thinks of that little 1-minute encounter he had with Su Li Zhen in the concession stand. And that is really evident of the kind of free flow, poetic, lyrical genius that you only get from Wong Kar-wai. And there are a lot of wonderful moments like that sprinkled throughout this film. And so much beautiful camera work. I love the relationship between Su Li Zhen and, is it T-Day or, I don't want to say Tide. There's no way his name is Tide, like Tide Pods. It's got to be like T-Day or Tie-Day or something. Played by Andy Lau, he's a policeman who ends up becoming a sailor, going port to port. I've always liked that metaphor of like a sailor as somebody who's like, uncaged, can't be chained down, port to port, person to person, place to place kind of thing. There's a lot of nice, like, free-flowing, like, romanticism in this film that works really well. And all the other characters, Su Li Zhen, you got her who, like, when she's rejected by Yeti, she's depressed for a while, but eventually gets over it. When Lulu is rejected by Yeti, she's devastated, and she clings even harder to him, and that just ends up alienating him even further and driving him away. And it's interesting to see her character reappear in 2046 and see that she's still kind of haunted by the events of this film and how she never really let that go. And it's funny how... It really is funny how those weird little things, moment to moment in your life that don't seem like they mean anything at the time can be the things that mean everything to you when you look back on it at the end of your life. We're here for really such a shockingly brief time in the grand scheme of things that you never know what's going to be most important to you until the very end when you're looking back on it. And for that reason, I do think the end of the film works pretty well. I don't want to get too much into the end of the film because spoilers, and there are honestly some revelations that if you've never seen the film, I think you should discover for yourself. But this is quite a profoundly sad film that really fits nicely within the mood for love. But it's sad in the way that you're sad in your early 20s, And the mood for love is sad the way you are when you're a full-fledged adult. And 2046 is sad in the way of when you're looking back on your life and regretting the mistakes you've made, and regretting all the possibilities in your life that never manifested because the timing was off or the stars just didn't align correctly. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've been thinking a lot about what my life would have been like if I'd spent more time getting to know the people around me in college. I've got one person from college that I still talk to. He's my best friend. I love him to death. He's like really, honestly, one of the best things that's ever happened to me. But there were so many people and so many women that I wish I had gotten to know better. That you wish that you had like acted upon. That when the time is up and the moment's past, it's just smoke left on the air with nothing left except the memory of whatever it was smoldering from. I've been thinking about that a little too much lately. This review is getting a little heavy for what's supposed to be a positive fucking train wreck channel. Let's talk about titties. No, let's not talk about titties. We got porn up for that if we want to talk about titties, We can talk about titties all the time. It's funny. When I finished the film, I didn't think my opinion had really changed that much of it. I thought it was still like pretty good, but not great. And as I've been thinking about it today, as I've been thinking about it through this review, I think this film actually hits a little closer to home than maybe I want to admit. I don't think I'm a yutty. I think I'm more like a Tide or a Tide Pod or a Titty or whatever the fuck Andy Lau's character's name is. Like, please, if you know how it's pronounced, like, just correct my culturally ignorant ass and just post it down in the comments, guys. But I feel more like somebody who's like the cop wandering the streets and, looking for a connection and never quite finding it or always just missing it. It's a weird predicament we find ourselves in. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever just feel like every great opportunity in your life has just slipped through your fingers without you ever even realizing that the opportunity was there in the first place? If you know what I'm talking about, I think you owe it to yourself to check this out. This has been even more of a train wreck than usual, but this is a profoundly weird film and a profoundly sad film. And one that I think a lot of us can probably relate to. If you can get on its wavelength, I think there's a lot of great stuff here. God, I'm fucking bummed out. I don't want to continue this review anymore. This will be my shortest review on the channel yet, 18 minutes. I'm sorry this ended up being such a downer. It's hard to think of your youth. It's hard to think on the time that passed you and wonder what it could have been if you'd done things differently. Who might have been important to you if you'd made different choices. If you hadn't been such an asshole. If you hadn't been so withdrawn or aloof. So maybe the lesson to take from this is, revel in those little momentary connections where you find them. Hang on where you can, and when they slip through your fingers, let them go, because it's all just part of the natural ebb and flow of life. I've been Richard. I've been a fucking train wreck even more than usual this episode, and now I'm a very sad boy thinking about a very sad movie. We'll be back with Chungking Express. That should be a more positive review. Stay tuned. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.